Yeah, it was an 8 hour sleep in their studio with monitors on them and all of those electrodes hooked up to machines. I'm kind of surprised he could sleep with all of that on, but he did
All right,
manage.
so you actually did it at the hospital?
He did it at a clinic. It was actually at a clinic.
Okay.
So,
See, what they did with me was I had some of those things, like little patches that you stick on, like they're doing an EKG on you or whatever.
mm-hmm.
They kind of peel and stick to you or whatever. And then I hooked up a thing to my nose, and I just slept overnight. Okay, and they had it hooked up to a little box or something that measured stuff, and then I just sent it back to California. And then they came back and they included that in my physical. So what the dentist is actually doing right now is contacting Dr. Archie Roberts, who runs the Living Art Foundation for the National Football League Players Association, and they're going to get the results of my sleep apnea. And then when I come back on the 31st, they're going to take a look at the mouthpiece that they fit me with, 7 or 8 years ago that they told me I should use. I used it 1 or 2 days in a row versus what Scott's doing, which is the whole Magilla. It was just a mouthpiece that kind of opened up your mouth a little bit. And really what it does is the new device that they're going to give me, if this device that they made me 8 or 9 years ago is not fitting correctly as well as it used to because your teeth shift and all that, it actually kind of after 18 to 24 months, you don't need it anymore, actually changes your construction of your jaw, which allows you to get more air in the passages. And it was really interesting when they gave me a quick questionnaire. They ran my insurance. They kind of told me where we were at. I didn't bring the mouthpiece up with me. So we kind of said we're going to make this a work in progress. So we can talk about this in future shows, when I go through a walkthrough on sleep apnea. But Scott, I'm kind of surprised that, I guess in your situation, you were in a hospital. They actually took you to a clinic and did this, which was much more thorough. All right, and probably was more accurate. So me, I kind of sat back. I woke up in the morning and the thing was hanging on the side of my face, and I'm going, I don't know how accurate the measurement was. I don't if I really have it, and I sleep well enough. I'm kind of stubborn, so I'm willing to open up my thought process a little bit more to the fact that I may start having to do what you do. Maybe not as arduous with all the devices, but probably some kind of new designed mouthpiece over what I already have, and have that rebuilt. All right, and then sleep with that at night to open up my air passages, so that as over time, I can slow down the offset of dementia if I'm a candidate for that, and I can just sleep better because I'm pumping more air into my lungs.
Well,
so it's kind of interesting. There's a whole process here. I learned a lot just listening to what you went through.
Well, let me tell you what, Bill. Candy's right here with me. She'll tell you how many times I stopped breathing in the night. She had to try to go ahead and move me around to see if I was alive and awake and I didn't die. It got that bad.
Wow.
Didn't it?
Yeah, and
some of these. Go ahead, Candy. What were you saying?
I was going to say, one of the times when he was in that sleep study, they actually did wake him up during the middle of the night and put him on a CPAP machine to see how it would work and how it would improve things. So that helped too, so it allowed him to get used to it a little bit.
But at home, Bill, I was in bed. I would stop breathing, and she had to try to move me around to see if I hadn't passed away, because I just stopped breathing outright altogether. So.
Well, you probably have it bad. I like to think I have a minor case of sleep apnea and that, yada, yada, yada. I just didn't like it because my jaw hurt like hell the next day. And they told me, it's going to hurt you for a while till your jaw gets used to sleeping that way. Mm-hmm. And then, the doctor said there's been when I talked to Dr. Hobbs, which is Dr. Sook's replacement, the guy's putting my crown in, after we finished, he talked about it, and he said, well, we probably can give you a new device because there's been quantum leaps in the technology over the last 8 years. They've actually been able to find, relations to dementia now, stuff they didn't know, back, 7 or 8 years ago. So, that caught my attention because I'm always looking for cutting edge stuff. But unlike you, I don't want to go to bed, like I'm being shot into space, with an oxygen mask and all that kind of stuff, So I don't know if I snore At least my girlfriend says I don't. So, as far as I'm concerned, I've got to kind of get up to speed and open my mind a little bit more to the fact that I may have it, and that I may have to start changing my lifestyle when I go to bed, and maybe do something like you're doing, maybe not to the degree. But a little sideline, Scott. Derek Kennard was the guy from the Cowboys who runs an alliance that's working for Dr. Sook, that's corralling these NFL players, particularly these linemen. Derek's like 400 pounds. So these guys are getting up there in size. So it's really, really important to these guys that they're pumping oxygen into these guys. Because I'm 300 pounds, but that extra 100 pounds with some of these younger guys, is really, really important that they get on this stuff early.
Well, I do things in a big way in this case for all the wrong reasons.
Well, yeah, Scott.
And, I do need my jaw to be active. Otherwise, we're in deep trouble with any of the shows, let alone this one. So, but yeah, no, it's something you definitely don't take lightly, Bill. If you have to go through a mask and a hose and all that, my advice is it may not be the most comfortable thing in the world, but if you really want to live and you feel like the effectiveness goes beyond a retainer in your mouth, then you might want to really look at this as a very strong option, Bill.
Well, I may not have any choice, Scott, and it's nice to know that a guy that I work with is already experienced and everything else. And as I go through a work in progress, because I'm going back up there in January, and I can report to the audience on exactly what they're going to do with me, because I was diagnosed with it, but I didn't take it seriously. And as far as I know, I pop out of bed in the morning and I sleep well and all that, but who knows? Maybe I'm selling myself short. So it was kind of nice that I have you in the wings to kind of critique me a little bit. So it'll be a learning experience both for us and the audience and myself.
Well, I was definitely gasping for air, that's for sure. When it happens in the hospital, when I'm in there anyways, and let alone the fact I do it in the clinic where they're testing, it's pretty self-explanatory what's going on. But now I wouldn't live without the machine if I can help it. Now, if I'm traveling, once in a while I don't take it, but I'll use it 90-95% of the time, and it does benefit me. It's one thing to be high-strung to begin with because I have a lot of things that we're working on, but really what it comes down to it is, that machine has done a lot for me, and now for the most part, I'm pretty uncomfortable without it. I do manage at times without it, but, you do what you got to do. But if, I have no problem devoting our show to sleep apnea all day long, let alone any medical issues. I think that's where we should start going with some of these episodes.
And Bill, can I interject just for a second, too? His sleep apnea, also with him using the mask, people might think, oh, well, that's not very, how should I put it, sexy in the bedroom.
Sexy.
But he is a big time snorer, and so it allows me because with the mask on, he doesn't snore. So we both get a good night's sleep.
Well, I'm always willing to learn. That's one of the things that I will tell you. I wrote a book a long time ago, From the Outhouse to the Penthouse, and somewhere in between. And, in our show, I always like to think that what separates us from the competition and why our readers are going to, why our listeners are going to want to, tune in on us on a consistent basis is, we're in the room with a lot of stuff that's going on. History has a tendency to repeat itself. So, we're involved in another league that's going to act similar to the USFL, and I was involved in that, so I kind of know what's going on. But also just the cutting-edge technology, both in professional sports and in medicine, that applies to a lot of people's current situations. So it's a learning process for everyone. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that I get a thrill laughing because when I watch, television and I do my homework, like the XFL, and I talk to the guys on the streets that are doing this for a living, or our agents and those types of things. I see that the technology now is streamlining a lot of things, and we're moving pretty quickly, but we're in cyberspace in a lot of areas. We talk repeatedly on this show about players being knuckleheads with social media. I think that's a phase that our country's going through. I mean, I'm looking at what's going on up in Congress right now with the impeachment. And we're clearly divided. We got one side that thinks it this way, one side thinks it this way, it's kind of interesting. Then you deal with sports, and we've talked a lot on our show about, how these officials can't get these calls right. Even though they're using all the technology, and I think the technology is here to stay because we have that undercurrent of television and ratings generating revenue. So it's all tied like a chain. And television isn't going to sit there and say we can't use technology to try to get these calls right. But even when we're using the technology, we're still missing the calls. And it's so bad that, a guy goes into last week it was in New England. They were just talking about the NBA. There was a game that was decided. The 24-second clock expired. The ball did not even hit the rim. It wasn't even close. And the refs still got it wrong. So this is another work in progress, just like the sleep apnea, where technology is changing the dynamic very quickly. We're getting all this information pretty quickly on things like sleep apnea. Now it's ties to dementia. We got a guy playing for New Orleans right now who's the number one pick, who is there, lauding him because he's standing up right now. And he's the number one pick in the draft by the Pelicans, and they said he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Here it's been 6 to 8 weeks. He's just now standing up, so it looks like he's going to be lost for the season. But you can't have technology, controlling everything. And what's going on in the XFL? They don't have any scouting. They don't have any scouts. They're just massively hurting guys in. They kind of use the agents because the agents brought all their players in to get evaluated. There are a lot of guys that were great players in the Alliance that aren't even playing in the XFL, guys like Trent Richardson. They're passing on guys like Colin Kaepernick. Your quarterbacks are going to be guys like Philip Walker, who's the quarterback for the Roughnecks, and a kid by the name of Linton, who these kids were just in NFL camps, and I don't think they even made it. So, there's a lot of things going on out there in what we call cyberspace, both in the medical field and professional sports, and a lot of it's tied to technology. And I think where we come in, Scott, is because we're such older guys, and we've been through the room, that we're able to see the bigger picture a lot faster than a lot of other people, and we're able to, maybe I think that's what's going to separate us a lot from the people that do other shows, is because this stuff is very important moving forward, that, we don't overreact to a lot of stuff, number one, that we kind of see the big picture, and we can kind of explain to the audience what's really going on, both as an educational point of view and also to make our game better.
Well, that's what makes doing this show with you a lot of fun, Bill. I can relate to somebody at my own level, which I definitely can with you. Don't get me wrong. The younger guys bring a certain type of energy, social media aspect. But you know what, Bill? If I didn't have social media, I could really care less of something we have to do. But when I have a co-host like you that I can relate to, old school, to me, it's just a much easier mindset for me to talk to somebody at my level. I know that. I do struggle, Bill, with the younger generation. I make no bones about it, Bill. I really, really do struggle. Do I have some good ones in the system? Yeah, I have no problem with them. But if I had the choice to do a show with a seasoned old school guy, you better believe I'll put a lot more of my time into that, because I believe that what we have here is really, really good, and it will continue to get better. I'll keep. But, in terms of the other shows, I think we have a good lineup of shows where there's a lot of versatility and balance in them, so I won't knock those. But what we do is pretty good. I've always maintained that if I was a play-by-play guy, you would be my color analyst. What else can I tell you?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I and just to embellish upon that, Scott. We're old school. Then we have the new school, which is all analytics. And there's somewhere in between. And the fact that we're in the room and have the experience, which separates us from, the other people out there who are either on one side of the fence or the other. And because of our experience, we're able to disseminate all those things